What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to bring you those 40 facts we all know and love about the Warhammer 40K universe. So today I decided to kind of educate you guys as to the type of psychic abilities that are available to the many beings of the 40K universe. Now, when it comes to the Imperium, generally these psychic abilities are separated into disciplines. Now, disciplines vary. They're each kind of specific to a certain topic. For example, you've got the Pyromancy discipline, which focuses entirely on flame abilities. They could range from creating towers of fire to vortexes of flames and things like that. So this is going to be maybe a 2 or 3 parter where I dive into the disciplines of the psychic abilities available. So sit back, relax, get some pizza, some popcorn, some Tostino's pizza rolls as we dive into this warp lore. But before we dive into the lore on the psychic disciplines, let's learn a little bit as to what a psyker actually is. So a psyker is a person, a being, a creature that has a type of possession to a varying degree to control the ability or powers of the warp. Now, these psychic powers are sometimes referred to as magic or sorcery, but all in all, they're basically abilities that grant the user powers, defenses, sometimes even foresight into the future. And all these things come from the immaterium, aka the warp. So as such, all psychers, particularly human psychers, if they have a weak mind, the warp can take advantage of this, and thus demons can become possessed, or the caster can become possessed by demons. They could open a realm gate to the warp and have demons spew out. So ultimately, the ruinous powers of chaos can do a lot of damage and devastation if the psyker is indeed weak. But there are various powers of psychers that fall into different disciplines. There are 5 disciplines that are very common throughout the 40k universe, and these include Biomancy, Divination, Telekinesis, Telepathy, and Pyromancy. But of course, there are many, many more. Now, each discipline has a particular characteristic which, like I said before, reflects the powers contained within it. Now, depending on the powerful will of the psyker, they may not only specialize in one discipline. They can have different types of broader ranges, such as fire and electricity, maybe even telekinetics abilities mixed in with machine corruption. So literally there are thousands upon thousands of combinations that a psyker can wield. But again, the more power they wield, usually the backlash is increased as well. But let's begin with the Biomancy discipline. So biomancers, they tend to specialize in manipulating life, and they possess all these abilities through the processes of their minds. They are masters of the flesh. They tend to learn to shape and influence the physical form of either themselves, their allies, or their enemies. For example, one ability that is often seen among biomancy is Smite. Now, Smite is when lethal bolts of bio-lightning leap from the psyker's fingertips, tearing his foes apart with raw warp energy. This is a powerful attack that is seen throughout all psyker classes, especially in 8th edition, since this is the de facto psychic ability. Apart from this, they can also learn Iron Arm. So what this means is they transmute their flesh into living metal. They become a powerful warrior whose flesh and muscles are literally iron. Another ability that they tend to use is Leech Life or Enfeeble, which is basically the psyker draining the vitality from their enemies and either giving it to themselves or to their allies. On top of this, they have Endurance, which is when the psyker reaches into the very essence of his allies, knitting together their bones, healing their flesh, and literally banishing fatigue so that they can keep on fighting. And finally, we come to warp speed. Now, with the abilities known to the psyker, they can enhance the speed to supernatural levels, literally making the user or their allies a blur on the battlefield until the enemy is brought down with a flurry of swift attacks. The next discipline that we will be talking about is telepathy. Now, telepathy allows the practitioner to contact and control the minds of others. This is outright mental domination, and you could literally control your enemy to do whatever it is you please for that person, thing, or creature to do. This is a very powerful ability, and often it leads to sabotage, suicide. Unfortunately, with all this power, telepaths tend to become depressed. They are all too easy to detect the overspill of the minds and thoughts, leaving them under no illusions about the nobility of man's soul. They grow in skill, but they are unable to completely shut out the constant low-level chatter of other minds. Consequently, many develop great loathing for crowds of people. Alongside this, they have constant irritation, and they face another peril as they practice their arts. By immersing themselves in another person's mind, they can often catch personality traits, mad beliefs, or even psychic corruption. Sometimes these telepaths can lose themselves entirely, becoming little more than a mirror of those around them. A tragic figure with dim memories of the individual they once were. Now, some of the abilities that telepaths can use, for example, one of the more powerful ones is Psychic Shriek. This is when the psyker breathes in deeply and the power of the warp emits into a banshee howl of psychic energy that literally tears apart the minds of his enemies. Also, they have the ability Puppet Master. Now, the telepath possesses its victim's mind, controlling their movements, their aim, their trigger fingers, as if they were simple marionettes perched upon a string. They can also use invisibility. They reach into the minds of their enemies, and the psyker obscures himself and his allies from the visual line of the enemy. Now, this is really great for infiltration, hit-and-run tactics, sabotage, and then, of course, you have hallucination. Paranoia, confusion, and panic are all heightened to a debilitating degree as the telepath alters his foe's perceptions of reality, creating fearful visions, confusing or befuddling the enemy. So all in all, this is just all about trickery, corruption, sabotage, and I'm sure Zeech would really appreciate the telepath discipline. So this is where I'm going to cut off part 1. There's still quite a bit more to cover, but for now, I'll leave you guys open to interpretation. So if you guys want me to cover Pyromancy next, let me know down in the comments below. If you want me to cover any other thing, again, leave it down in the comments. So with that being said, guys, this is the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for part 2 into the psychic disciplines of Warhammer 40K.